Looks like you are.
We'll get going in a minute. So just take me a minute to set up. So, hello, anyone watching. Welcome to Paranormal Perspectives live. We used to do lives every now and again, just having a general kind of free chat and story share session. And I thought tonight would be a good night, just have a chilled out chat, sharing a few scary stories around the campfire. So, as you guys know, my name is Stan. Been doing this podcast for whatever a year now, and I started this all off with my good friend Christine, who's here with us tonight at the moment.
Good,
Hey, Christine, it's wonderful to have you back.
good to
Quite
be.
missed our chats.
Yeah, it's been good.
So yeah, I think we're going to just share a few stories, just share a few theories. Anyone, feel free to pass any questions into the chat, and I'll do my best to answer for you. If you just bear with me a minute, I just have to do a few link copying things to make people aware that this is actually live. This is where most professionals would have somebody on the side to help, but I'm kind of like a one-man band when it comes to production here.
I love a bit of ghost talk, me.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make us weird, do you think?
No such thing as weird. It's only perception, societal perceptions.
Absolutely.
Done.
Are you done?
Done, all good to go. Yeah, I just need to get the, there's like a chat channel, chat support. It's like a message center somewhere. There we go. All good, ready to go.
Excellent.
Like I said, yeah, so anyone that might be watching us now, yeah, thanks for your patience. So obviously, we're just a small group really getting things together and running things ourselves. So yeah, so just for anyone that doesn't know who's joined us in the last few months, so Christine helped me earlier on the podcast, essentially being like a co-host and really been a bit of a mentor to me as well before this, as part of our circle that we joined a while ago.
Yeah.
And you're great at sharing stories, but from the medium's perspective, but in a way that's very grounded and realistic and relatable, really. So I know you've been working on a few projects recently, but yeah, I mean, I suppose it's a good time to start kind of the main conversation, really saying, okay, well, what have you been working on recently? Is like anything, like any kind of thoughts that have come to mind that kind of excites you about the paranormal world?
I'm writing a ghost story. I've
Oh,
always wanted
yes.
to write a ghost story. I don't write fiction normally, because I can't sustain it. I'm probably going to kill somebody off in chapter 2 and bring them back and forget about it and bring them back in chapter 7 or something like that. I've always wanted to write a ghost story, and my favourite ghost story is, or film actually, is The Others.
Hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
it was on BBC the other night, and I caught it, and it's like, wow. And I like it because it messed with my head. I didn't, the first time I watched it, I didn't realize that she was dead. Took me a long time to get there. Um, so I like the archetypal ghost stories. There's a house and there's something attached to the house. Um, and there's people involved that want to find out what's going on. So that's what I'm working on. And then I'm doing another book, which is trying to prove the afterlife. Um,
Right.
and I think, along with ghost hunters, got so many of us want to try and prove the existence of something. Um, um, I just do it better probably when I write it down. Whereas ghost hunters, I'm too old now for charging around empty buildings at 1 o'clock in the morning. It gets cold,
Okay.
and my old bones just want to go to bed. Um,
Yeah.
so, and I think with ghost hunting, now here's a thing I thought about the other day. When you ghost hunt, it's difficult enough to get phenomena happening, right?
Mm.
But if you do, and you manage somehow to record that, whether that's an EVP or whatever, we live in an age where there's so many skeptics,
Mm.
and we've got all the technology in the world to fake these things. Realistically, what do you think that ghost hunters have ever really got a chance of proving that they've witnessed something? Because people, it's fake, it's
Yeah.
fake. It's a shame we've got too much now that we can fake,
Yeah,
and I wonder
it's
if
a
it's
tricky
more
thing.
difficult for ghost hunters now to prove anything.
Yeah, it depends on the viewer, the observer, I suppose. Because yeah, yes, we all do have access to a number of different devices to record phenomena, and with that, also alongside that, we also have AI, which can adjust, mold, recreate, ultimately just create lies on demand, really. And it's amazing technology, but it's only added to the level of suspicion when it comes to paranormal phenomena, where you would think, of course, okay, having these devices, more people would have evidence. So it's almost like there's been a counter to the rise of technology because AI has kind of unmade that. But that's one thing. But even if you're able to create an experiment which removes all the variables, it's entirely down to the person because you can literally, give someone a block of gold and they say to you, no, 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 that's silver. Um, we each and every one of us perceive reality completely differently. That's the thing because we all do have similar machinery, but our perceptions and our ability to understand the world around us vary so much. So I don't, I don't think you could ever truly convince the world that this thing is a thing because not everybody can see. And that's the thing. Like, for example, like if you're colorblind, you can tell people that certain colors do exist, but they haven't perceived them, and it's not their fault. But you have to understand that we all aren't even in terms of like the way that we perceive the world, because each and every person is a universe, really.
Yeah,
All I can go from like my evidence is like I've had empirical evidence, things I've literally witnessed for myself. But I wouldn't expect the next person to believe it because they weren't there. And that's where the whole ghost hunting thing comes in, because at least I suppose in person you have a shared experience. And again, you're limited by the varying perceptions of each person, though. But at least it brings it closer to going, okay, well, I heard this thing, and you heard this thing, and you heard this thing. So maybe it's more real than just the one of us. But yeah, I need to really get out there again and do more ghost hunting. But
yeah. I
for me,
mean,
I don't like ghost hunting. That I'm more of a ghost observer. I'm almost
I
like
was going to
I'm a
say
ghost watcher.
about the ghost hunt, and it's like it's a shame that it's got that word hunting because it's I don't like that.
Yeah.
I say investigations. Um, there's a lot to learn, but I was just thinking the other day, it must be really hard now
Mm.
for people, that perhaps do get some evidence, um, to in some way, sort of say, that's what we got. Because there's so many people now that, for one reason or the other, they're skeptical. Like you said, you could put it right in front of them and they wouldn't believe it. So it must be
Yeah.
really hard now. Whereas years ago, I think it was ghost ghost investigations were perhaps easier because we didn't have things that were fake. So you're more likely to think, "Oh, that's a bit different. How did that happen?" Um,
I
for
see
in
your cat's come up behind you, by the way. Which cat is that?
That's Lily, and
Uh,
she's sniffing a candle, and she's gonna burn her nose, Lily.
don't burn yourself, Lily.
But yeah, I'm kind of referring to we want to go back to sort of like it was 1900s. No, eight. Yeah, it was 19 something. Um, and there were two. two priests in the Vatican recording Gregorian chants, and I'll tell you how far back it was. Before we had tape recorders, they used to record on wire, yeah.
Right.
And while they were trying to do this, the wire kept breaking, and one of the priest was sort of like exasperated, and he sort of like, "Oh, come on, Dad," calling out to his dead father. Well, anyway, long story short, a voice broke in and recorded on the tape. "Can you not hear me? I'm here, I'm here." And they were so like, "Whoa, what's this?" Went off to the Pope, and the Pope says, "Well, the voices are there." And this
Mm.
led to the Catholic Church opening up what we would call a paranormal investigation unit. Um,
Oh, they have their own Ghostbusters.
yeah, oh yeah, they have a huge,
I didn't know that. I mean,
yeah,
I know they have exorcists though, but I didn't know they actually have had like an
no, no,
investigation unit
no.
for this.
I can't remember which Pope it was, but he said, because they were worried, because obviously being the Catholic Church, it was the devil, and he said, "No, you can't deny that the voices are there.
Yeah.
Therefore, they've come from somewhere.
Right.
Um, what we need to do is find out where they've come from." And as I say, this led on to that, and they still have a huge paranormal. Um, I, s- I suppose it's a section of the Vatican that they look at things of a paranormal nature. They don't make a lot of noise about it, but they're investigating it, which I like. I think, oh, too right, no,
Yeah,
yeah,
because I know they have like a supposedly a secret archive full of various objects they wish the world. Obviously, they're hiding away from the world. So whether it will be something that breaks the narrative they present or things that they deem to be dangerous, really, I know they do have that. I'd love to have a day out. Just pop into the Vatican archives, come out with a UFO or something.
yeah, but
But
it would. So with a lot of
yeah,
people. But my point of saying that was, it's then they didn't have the technology. The only thing they had was this recording device. Whereas now we've got recording devices all over the place. Um,
yeah,
we've got electricity waves that could break in and give you a voice out of nowhere, and all those other things that we've got going on. That's not, and of course we've got AI and all the rest of it. How
yeah.
do ghost hunters, if they get phenomena, record that and have any credibility to it? Which I think is a shame. I think it hasn't done the ghost hunting world a favor by having all these things, because they're just layers
Yeah.
of suspicion. And
Well,
because
I
when
tried.
you see a ghost, um,
Yeah.
it's usually very spontaneous. You're not likely to perhaps see it if you are on a ghost hunt, unfortunately, it seems. Have you ever seen one?
As in seen an actual ghost.
Yeah.
I
By
believe I have because I kind of question like what a ghost is. That's been me. I always answer a question with a question, really. So that's before I say that. What is a ghost to you?
Well, to me, a ghost and a spirit are two different things. So a ghost is like a recording of something that happened, like a stain on the ether. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, which is for me the reason that you get it places that's been conflict or high emotion and stuff like
So
that.
it kind of like the recording effect. There's a name for it though when the stones can essentially all
Stone tape theory.
local.
I think
That's
it's
the one. Yeah,
stone
stone tape theory. I
tape
mean, it
theory.
does what it says on the tin. Stone tape theory.
Absolutely. Um, a spirit is a completely different thing. A spirit has got intelligence behind it, can communicate with you,
Yes.
whereas a ghost tends not to communicate in the sense of it can't. I mean, I saw a ghost in Wales, and it scared the life out of me. Absolutely scared the life out of me.
Yeah.
Would you like to know about it?
Yeah, is that the one you saw, like, the Moors or something? I remember you telling you were with a group of friends, like, a while ago, or was this, like, a different story?
The Moors? No, this was in a
No,
park.
go for it anyway.
Uh, three of us, out for a late night walk, and we were in a place, I won't mention the place, but it was a place where there'd been historically, a lot of conflict and um, bad feelings and stuff going way, way back. And we were walking through this park, and there was a tree to our right, and where the branches finished, and then you've got the trunk coming down, it was like just black. And then all of a sudden, there was a pair of legs standing there. Now, it weren't some sort of pervert in the woods.
Mm.
This was just the legs. That was what was weird. It was just a pair of legs. And it seemed to be building up from the feet upwards. It was wearing boots. It was a linen colour. Um, the boots were sort of like had a big turnover at the top. Um,
Yeah.
they were the kind of things that we see historically, and we all saw them. Now, obviously, there's three people. We all saw different things because we were at different angles and different perspectives. But for me, I saw these, and I had a really dreadful feeling. And somebody screamed. Them two ran and left me, and I ran after them. But it was a really scary, and it was a ghost. I know it was, and we all knew it
S-
was. We all said that's a ghost.
So multiple people saw the same
And we all
thing.
saw it. We all saw it.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what I mean. Yeah. So you begin to think, okay, well, this is more real than I thought.
Well, that makes it more objective, doesn't it? When other people can see what you're seeing. If I'd looked over and said, "Oh, I thought I saw a pair of legs there," um, that's just me that's seen it. Maybe I imagined it. But when three of us together see it at the same time, yeah, it was
So,
scary, and we all ran. We all ran anyway.
yeah, well, don't blame you. I mean, I'll
Yeah,
do the same. Like
which
that's
is
when your fight or flight kicks in.
it's a bit crazy when you think, love ghost hunting. What we should have done, if we'd been brave, is to stand there and seen if any more of it manifested. Yeah. Um, but yeah, fear took us away, mate. It was like, boom, we're gone. And it was, yeah.
So I wonder if these things feed off your energy to manifest because I mean you know my story, but for anyone that's watching who doesn't know much about me, I mean I'm releasing a book soon called Paranormality: Normalizing the Paranormal. I mean, that's the goal, to normalize the conversation about the paranormal. But yeah, I grew up in a haunted house, and quite bluntly so. And this house, it all started from an accident, and yeah, something followed me home into the house. But yeah, I've seen the most insane things, and that only makes me think of like I remember once I was walking back from school, and I think I was in secondary school, and it's the first time I saw a manifestation in broad daylight, and I just can't figure this thing out. But I was walking towards the house. The house was to the right of me. The road was to the left of me, and I was walking on the path. And as I was approaching the house, I was about maybe like a meter or two away. I could see something walk out of the gate from our house, and I thought maybe it's the postman because I was kind of like looking down at my school bag and not fully focused. So I saw some feet plodding along, and I looked up to say hello to, yeah, usually it's our postman coming at that time of day. I saw a pair of Adidas trainers. Other brands are available, as you have to see on radio. But yeah, I saw some Adidas trainers, like quite scruffy, a pair of jeans like leading up from it, and they had kind of like wide bottoms. The ones you kind of get in the '60s that were quite popular. And I looked up, and I saw there was no torso, and it was just walking at a brisk speed as well, not like running or walking. It's like at a slightly faster pace than that. And I saw it just long enough for it to leave our gate, walk across the path, and begin to walk into the street. And as it was walking, the clothes were moving with it, as if like it had a physical force. It was interacting with gravity, with the wind that was blowing at the time. And I just stood there completely frozen. And my upbringing taught me to completely ignore those things. And I was still leaving that upbringing back then. So part of my mind was saying, okay, you're just imagining it. You just want to see it. So you're just making something up. And the other part of me was saying, I've literally have just seen this. And I've with the way my brain works, I keep videos in my head anyway. I can just replay them many times, so I can even see it now. Just the vision of this thing walking across the street, and like it all happened around that house. Like we went for years and years and years experiencing the most strangest phenomena. And one thing about shared experiences like your one, Christine, we had this whistling spirit, and initially it started in the garden. And I thought it was just a neighbour whistling away, and I was on my own. Eventually, somebody started whistling inside the house, and it would be like a. I don't want to whistle now because my kids are asleep though. But yeah, like imagine like a confident sounding whistle, kind of like the beginning of a song, a tune of some sort. And yeah, it would come inside the house, and I thought maybe my sister might be playing a prank because we used to mess about with each other back in the day, or my mum would be. But yeah, then I forgot. Of course, my sister couldn't whistle back then, so I thought, okay, well, who is that? Because my mum isn't here, and I kind of like dismissed it initially, and then like the next day, like I heard a whistle inside the house, and a second time it was right by my ear, and it made me jump, and I just couldn't explain it, so I just ran out of the room because you just don't know what to think about that kind of a situation. And it kept happening more and more inside the house, and eventually, my sister heard it, and then we kept experiencing it regularly, about I'd say 3 to 5 times a day. So it's not as if it was constant, but it was enough times in the day to make it notable. But it was so loud, and eventually our friends would come over, and I remember one time in particular, it was me, my sister, and three other friends. I mean, we're all teenagers. We were all teenagers at the time, so you could say we're us being together. It could be a hormonal energy. I don't know, whatever it is that may have fueled something that could happen. So this could be a psychic event. You never know. But yeah, we had a whistle right in amongst our group, and we all jumped at the same time. So I never will forget that. I mean, my sister, if she might join us on this live session, I'll see how she's doing anyway. But she was there to witness so many things that happened in this house over the years, and I actually brought something with me tonight. I don't know if you can see that. You see
Uh-huh.
that? Is it going to
Yeah,
focus?
yeah.
This little piece, there's something special about this little duck um, with my old name. Obviously, my first name is Kieran, so yeah, but I go by Stan now. Yeah, this little thing was there when all of these insane things were happening, and this is what I brought back with me from the hospital. The nurses gave me after I had this near-death experience where I met this entity and had this horrifying time actually. But this thing I brought back with me, I held on to it in the most frightening moments when, some evenings I'd see this dark entity in my bedroom. There are times when this vortex activated in my bedroom, which I know it sounds crazy. I hate using the word crazy though, but it does seem crazy. But these things we were listening in this house, like I mentioned, the whistling, the legs we used to see, and we had objects jump off of tables. We could hear music in the middle of the night sometimes, and even the time when I came back from school after having a horrendous, horrible day being bullied, as most kids do at that day. So again, I always think that it might be a psychically fueled event. But either way, came back and this thing was in the same room when my room turned to night in the middle of the day, and that's something I can never forget. So I keep this thing. Oh, just dropped it. I keep this thing with me, just as a reminder. Okay, well, these things did happen because I do question it in my mind from time to time. Okay, am I just making it up, or maybe am I misinterpreting those things? But the time when the most frightening things were happening, I grabbed onto this little thing because it's what got me through hospital. So I feel like I feel like I want to speak to myself as a kid and just say it's okay. You don't need to be afraid. You don't know at the time what's going on and what to comprehend. So that little object got me through the most frightening hauntings.
Oh, you said about, sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it does to people that haven't experienced things like that.
Oh,
But,
there you go.
to be fair, I would have said that your psychic senses were waking up, and
Oh, they were. Yeah.
and, um, not everybody can perceive, hear, see. any which way people perceive smell, touch, they just don't. It's as simple as that. And I think some kids, some people have got that ability to do that. And for me, it sounds like that was the kind of thing that was happening with you. You perhaps saw things that other people didn't see. You think, "Oh god, that sounds crazy." Yeah, it does. But I've seen legs, so I don't think it's that crazy, you know?
No.
All I saw was a pair of legs that night. Scared the living daylights out of me. Um, so maybe it's people, because I used to think, "Well, why can't everybody see ghosts?" Well, the answer is not everybody can drive like, um, Lewis Hamilton, can they? We can probably all drive a car, but we can't all
It's
drive.
weird. I was thinking of exactly the same person when you were about to say that. I was thinking of Lewis Hamilton as well.
Really?
Brilliant, yeah.
But it's well, there you go, psychic buzz there.
I know
But,
yeah, we're always
you know,
connected, but
we can
yeah,
all
yeah.
drive our cars, but not many of us can drive the way he can drive. And again, when people perceive these things, it's like you know, you get a lot of kids having psychic experiences, and then they seem to go away as they're growing up, and that's because you know the world's coming in on them, and they're
Yeah.
picking up phones, they're scrolling, they're doing all the things. Um, but when we're picking those things up, I don't think it's anything necessarily scary. I think
Yeah.
we're just perceiving things other people can't perceive.
Yeah, I just wish I knew how it all works,
Ah,
but I spent a long time just trying to resist it because all I wanted to do as a kid was to fit in, and I'm sure you can relate to that, Christine, or anybody watching really. All you want to do is just fit in, just have a
well,
normal,
well,
easygoing life, but
I'm
this thing wouldn't leave me alone.
but I mean, the thing is, if you want, everybody wants to fit in when they're a kid, I think.
Yeah.
But you're seeing legs, you know, from nowhere. Yeah, that's gonna go down well, isn't it? And this is what we learn, don't we, to shut our mouths, you know, and we'll keep it quiet because obviously we're crazy or there's something wrong with us, and it's not at all. I
Do
think,
you do you Yeah, do
sorry.
you see there being a day one day that people will just be educated because this thing's been going on for eons? And you know, in public schools, you'll learn about the scientific theories of the day, and I absolutely love science. I find it fascinating, and I do believe this can be explained by science one day. But people being educated that okay, well, the fact that some people can just deal with different kinds of data. Like, for example, like school nowadays are more accepting of kids with various different forms of autism and you know ADHD and all these different kind of things like that, and much more accommodating and understanding and respectful and you know and so on. And yeah, 50 years ago, if a kid like that came into a lesson and was to them seen as misbehaving, they'll be treated awfully. Now it's getting better. It's not perfect though, but in that same vein, like, why aren't people generally educated that some people can just see
I
these
think
things and yeah.
I
Is it because
think
it's hard to measure?
it's hard to measure, and I'm with you. I think science will prove that the psychic or the paranormal, call it whatever. I think science, you know, is our greatest friend really, because there will come a time when they will be able to quantify what's happening with people. Um, but we have to remember also that we've got a long history of so-called mediums that have been done fraudulent things, um, and it's spoiled it, you know.
Yeah,
Or people that believe in ghosts are a little bit weird. She's the old lady
yeah,
at the end of the street, you know, she's a little bit weird. This is me I'm talking about. Um, because some people are so rooted in materialism, they can't see anything outside of that. I've met people that are, you know, just totally poo-poo it. Quite recently, I was talking to somebody I hadn't seen for a long time. I mean, literally hadn't seen for a long time since I was about 15. And we got to talking, and she said something about, yeah, she's the type of people I can't stand are those mediums and psychics. And it was like, "Whoa, we need to have a chat, you know," and so we did, and it's not her fault. She hasn't been exposed to stuff, or and by not being exposed, hasn't developed an interest. I think once you start to develop an interest, whether it's
Yeah.
just reading a book or whether it's going ghost hunting, you're opening your mind to the possibilities of things happening. But when, like my friend said, oh no, that they're working with the devil, it's like that's so closed down. So just
Yeah.
by
But
going along to ghost hunts and things like that, as I say, I don't do them anymore because, you know,
it's hard work, isn't it,
it's
though?
hard work,
It's hard work and
especially
it's
one
quite
o'clock in
cold.
the morning and you're cold and you've been stood and, is there anybody there? And, yeah, yeah. I went to one last year, yeah, and I think I knew then that I probably won't go to many more, if any, because age does catch up on you. I don't want to be, so enjoy it while you can still run around like a nutter, with your bits and bobs. I mean, I love that. Love them. I'd much rather go to that than I used to want to go to a club or anything like that. But get older and you stood on hard ground and that hip is starting to go, "Git, git, git." That spoils it a bit. But I I would love to go somewhere and see a full-on apparition. And I mean,
Yeah,
the one place I want to go to is, oh God,
yeah,
where Catherine, oh God, one of the palaces is that, one of the Henry VIII's palaces, where one of his wives was banged up. She's apparently supposed to be seen walking, screaming actually and running around. Um, and I was
yeah,
watching a program, can't remember which historian it was. I think it was Linda what do you call it, Wolseley, and she said when she was actually on that part of the castle, she could feel a change of atmosphere.
yeah.
People are talking about it more. Just this morning on BBC, they were interviewing um, a company of ghost hunters, and
Yeah, I saw that actually. I'm
yeah,
surprised mainstream media. I mean, previously it was seen as entertainment, a ha ha ha, look at these silly people kind of thing.
but that's
Now,
how
now,
things
now they're
start,
not fully invested though, but they're not making fun of them anymore. They're just genuinely
right?
having to chat with them, which is an interesting change I've noticed.
And yeah, I've noticed that kind of change as well. How, um, you know, all of that kind of stuff used to be mocked. And I mean, change in society is it's slow, but more and more people are going, well, hold on, we're getting more stuff on mainstream TV. Danny Robbins, Uncanny, yeah. I mean,
Oh, I love Uncanny.
oh,
There,
so
there's
do
a link
I.
to South Hinksey. I really, I've been trying to. I haven't been harassing Danny anyways, but I've made a couple of attempts to say like one of the episodes. I think it was episode 2 or 3 where it's to do with the hauntings that took place at the student residence in South Hinksey in Oxford. Because I had a paranormal experience right by where that happened, and I'd love to speak to him to see, okay, is there a link? Because there's something about this bridgeway that comes out of South Hinksey. Like we call it the Devil's Backbone in Oxford, where I had this out of body experience, and I literally landed there. Like, again, it sounds crazy, but it did literally happen. But there's something about that place that is fascinating. I'd love to speak to him to see, okay, can we get a better understanding of the links that are happening there? But yeah, I mean, it's a great show, Uncanny, and again, it's bringing that to the mainstream
It's
in
coming
a
in.
way that's treated with respect. But they get the skeptics view, don't they, as well? Though it's not just simply a believer; it's both sides of the coin.
Absolutely, and what he's doing is presenting it and saying, "Well, what do you think about it?" He's not trying to preach one way or the other. I mean, I did watch an interview with him, and he was very scathing about mediums,
Mhm.
which found a little bit like, oh, tried not to be too wounded with it. But yeah, again, coming to mediums, there is some amazing mediums out there. A lot of them are not amazing, but you get a few. Not all of them are, as everybody's quick to say, charlatans and
Yeah,
things like that. Um,
yeah,
and I think the more we talk about it, more we have a dialogue about it. Um, yeah, I mean, I want to go back now to when I was in my 20s, 30s. You wouldn't have gone ghost hunting. You can thank, to be fair, you can thank Most Haunted for ghost hunting. They brought it to us. Whatever you may think about Most Haunted, it opened up a whole new thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, I was there watching all the lives back in the day in
Oh,
our old
were you?
TV, and yeah, I was there watching the lives, and I actually had a paranormal event happen whilst I was watching Most Wanted. I
Really?
still remember, yeah, I was watching. I think it was some place in Wales. They're doing this live show, and I was watching it, and yeah, the bowl off my table jumped and shot
No way.
all of the jelly beans all over the room. Yeah, it's the weirdest things. I thought at first maybe I kicked it, but it's like a big old hefty bowl. But I still got this image in my again, like I record images like precisely, and I still never forget them. I
Well, I
remember
was
seeing the bowl just off the table, ding, and then and it's again it's in that house that I grew up in, but it had like the most electric energy sometimes. Like you could feel like the air was like stinging you at times,
yeah, yeah.
and yeah, like my mum saw it, but I didn't speak to her too much at the time because again it's that societal expectation. You get too worried about talking about it. You don't want to be judged. So I didn't tell my mum too much about it at the time, but only when it got really intense and really bad, that's when she got involved. And a friend of hers who's a medium, first medium I met as well, came to literally save the day. Um, but how do people like? I suppose how do mediums live safely in the modern world? Because, like you say, it's becoming more popular to be more accepting of mediums, but there's still this perception that they're evil or charlatan. For example, like I don't like saying I'm a medium. I still feel very uncomfortable saying it though because you have to deal with people's and it's really annoying though. It's like they can say who they are. Why can't I say who I am? But when I began to talk about it a bit more publicly on my Facebook platform or my face, as I tend to call it nowadays, um, people were quite nice about it. Some people were quite surprised that they didn't gonna see that coming, and I thought, well, how did you not? But I only had like one minor issue really, and yeah, it was all like a person that I worked with for years. I had a lot of respect for him. He was a really talented man, actually, a really nice guy. I stayed friends with him after I finished working at this place. Just I'd love to see kind of his career, what he's doing, and all that. And so yeah, the moment I came and said that more publicly, he immediately sort of came to me and said, "Okay, well, if you're going to be a medium, you better not rip people off or and try was it fraudulent behavior, something like that, basically." And I said, "Well, that's a bit of an unexpected reaction. Like, what makes you think, even in the slightest, that I would be and do that?" And he sort of tried to play it off, and I thought, okay, that's really strange because it doesn't seem like his character because he's normally quite a kind person, but clearly there's something about knowing that really irks him, like maybe caused him to fear.
Well,
And then yeah, he sent me some horrible messages after, so, just making fun of me about anything, like literally making fun of my name, just saying I must be horrible or stupid, or it was like literally coming off. I gave him nothing to work with. And he's going off on a rant. Just
well,
all it started with me just saying I'm a medium. That's all I said. I'm a medium.
but
It's really bizarre. Yeah, sorry, Christine.
I don't think it's bizarre at all. I think it's part of your development in as much as you will meet people that will have that kind of reaction. I've had it as well. I've been told that I'm cruel to tell people there's life after death. I says, why is it cruel?
Yeah, to be called cruel just because you
Cruel,
exist,
yeah.
it's idiotic.
But you see,
It's
the
not
gentleman
kind.
you're talking about is obviously got some narrative about mediums that first thing he said it was about charging money and not ripping people off. So that's his experience. You see, that's
Maybe.
probably his only experience. And sadly, he'll probably never look for any other experience as a result of that, which is a great shame.
Yeah,
Um,
we had an
that's not
opportunity
quite
there, but I do
right.
wish him all the best.
Yeah. But I do think this kind of thing, you have to witness stuff yourself. Um, as you know, with my last book, it was about people's experiences. Um, and more than once said, I've had people say, if it hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't have believed it. But it did happen.
Yeah, that's the
And
classic
then,
phrase. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I can get that because I'm kind of skeptical myself. And the things that I've experienced, if like yourself, I've questioned, are they real? They were
Yeah,
real to me. They happened to me as far as I'm aware. So,
yeah.
and if he's heard, and I mean, of course, there are people out there we've heard that will take money and rip people off, and you know, but they don't have to be mediums. They're usually sitting in a call center somewhere telling you that you need to upgrade something on your computer. People will always try to bloody scam people, and there will
Yeah.
be mediums that do that, or call themselves mediums that do that. But the genuine ones, when you see a medium bring forth a piece of evidence to somebody that there's no
Mhm.
way that they could have known about, then that you've got to ask yourself questions. Where's that
Yeah.
coming from?
Well, my shocking piece of evidence was like, yeah, but Penny, who was on an earlier episode, I do kind of refer to her sometimes because she's the first medium that I met that I learned a lot from actually. Because I had the perception even back then that mediums were fraudulent, they're fake, they were
Well, there you
nasty
go.
because I was brought up to believe that. Not it's not like my family taught me that. I mean, talking about hearing the things at school or at work, it's generally socially acceptable to talk about them in a very nasty way. And when I had this experience that slowly accelerated, I found out my mum knew this medium. For some reason, I knew I could trust her, but I don't know if it's because I was at a point of desperation, maybe. But either way, I knew that I could trust her straight away. And but she dealt with this entity that was in my house, and I mean, this entity. I I, I want to know what it is, but I still want to tell it to F you all these years later because like that thing was like a nasty old mother, so to speak. But this thing would it affected the way that people interacted with me because I went through a few years of thinking that people hated me or people were horrible because people just kept exploding in anger all the time. And it began to show itself. My maths teacher at school, I remember that because I was quite a timid, polite kid. Just talking to my maths teacher, I said, okay, well, having an issue. What's that noise? That's really bizarre. Something just flicked my teacup and it just went ding. How bizarre. Anyway, could be a scientific explanation for that. But yeah, just talking about my maths teacher, like, I just went to him and said, "Okay, I'm having some trouble with this equation. Like, can you explain to me or help me to figure this out so I can understand the thinking behind it," kind of thing. And um, he didn't say anything. He got visibly quite angry. I could see it all building up and like rising to his head almost. His face got really kind of red, and he just grabbed a chair and just smashed it down on the floor. And the moment that happened, it's like he shocked himself. He's like, "Oh," and then just walked off. Never a sorry with him because he was quite a grumpy character anyway. But it was a sudden accelerated anger out of nowhere. And this would happen to me every now and again, just talking to random people. Some people who didn't know me, I'd meet in the street, would suddenly get very angry at me. And I don't like to think about this being like, first person syndrome. Like I think I'm the center of the world. This is all happening because of me. It's not like that. Because for years, I genuinely used to think that I was a horrible kid, that nobody liked me. And these entities are a-holes. And but yeah, just leading to what happened years later. So I'd been dealing with angry people for years, unexpected explosions, so and so on. When I met Penny, she explained to me what was happening in the house that was building up and building up and building up. And there are things she told me at the time that even my mum didn't know, and I hope she will never know because I'll probably still get grounded even now as a fully grown man. But there are things that she knew that it's impossible for her to know because only I knew them. I never said them to anybody. And what led to the end of this thing was she identified this thing that had been following me around. She explained it to me, the things that I've been feeling, and it matched. The amazing thing is, like, she dealt with this entity, she fought this thing off, and eventually I asked her later on, "Hey, can you explain to me what you saw?" And because I've been seeing this thing in my bedroom over the years, I had like night terrors as a kid because of my accident. Eventually, this thing just kept residing in my bedroom and just being there in the middle of the night, just watching. And her description matched what I saw. So what I saw her back at the hospital that followed me home was like a dark, tall, gangly kind of creature, really, with like gnarled skin, like as if it was like burned, but it was almost like it was tree bark at the same time. But it's so dark you could only just about make these minor details. And two white piercing eyes with no pupils or anything, just pure dots almost. And yeah, I remember I had like long fingers. And this started at such a young age, like where I wasn't watching horror movies back then, so I didn't have the influence of films like The Conjuring today or Poltergeist and all the other famous paranormal movies, which are amazing, by the way. I knew this from a young age, and it followed me through, and Penny's description matched it perfectly. She saw exactly what I'd seen all that time. I never explained or described what I saw to anybody, not my mum or my sister, because it was so frightening. It almost scares the voice out of you. You can't physically speak, but then again, that may be the effect of what it was. But anyway, after that thing was dealt with, people were a lot nicer to me. It's like overnight, I felt a lot lighter and a lot happier. Suddenly, I started making more friends again, and
You got to
these
remember, right?
explosions stopped happening. So yeah, this thing's a dick. So sorry,
Yeah,
Christine, you go on.
yeah, it is a dick, and not everything from the other side is nice. I mean,
No,
I don't do demons or any of that kind of stuff. I won't. To me, go away. You do not belong here. But like in your case, right? You've got somebody that's, I don't know, crossed over, and they're a pretty evil piece of poo, right? And then you've got a little boy that's scared.
yeah,
Ah, that's a little boy that's perhaps got a little bit of psychic ability like you had, yeah? And if you're a really nasty person, yeah, scare the kid. Yeah, scare him and present yourself in any which way to scare him. Some people are just nasty, and when they don't become angels when they go into the spirit world, and they do inhabit places like that. And if you've got a child that's vulnerable because of your fear, then why not play on it? Let's have some fun. Now he might think it's fun. It's no fun for you. Um,
yeah. He was
and
definitely having a fear buffet at that
yeah,
time.
yeah, and the best way of dealing with those kind of people is like, you know, have somebody help you or to stand up to them and go, get them out of my house. But of course, when you're little, you're frightened of it. But I've heard of other
Yes.
people whose children have had similar fear related things happening about entities in their bedroom and that. And they've gone in as parents, grandparents, whatever, and give the spirit, whatever it is, a good dressing down so that the child can hear it. And what that's doing is taking back the power. The
Mm,
power while a child while you're being frightened by that, that thing becomes more powerful. But once you stand up to them, because they can't physically hurt you, they could throw something at you, they can't touch you or anything like that. And I used to see them as little Dennis the Menace kind of
mm.
thing. And it was just like, "You're not
I used to love that
real.
comic.
You're
Yeah,
not real. Go away." And they kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
pixelate and they go away. But yeah, and I absolutely believe if you've got good, you've got evil as well. And unfortunately, there are people that have not lived an exemplary life, shall we say, that want to be mischievous, so they're gonna muck around with a kid's head.
yeah,
Now, you know, that's where I would take that from. Um,
yeah,
and the way to stand up to anything, as you know, whether it's bullying in the physical world, bullying from the spiritual world, is to stand up and tell them, you take the power back.
yeah. Well, just to add to that, I mean, there are, I don't know whether you call them angels though, but there are kind of higher entities that I've met that are quite extraordinary as well. And it's more of recent information that came to light from my mum because as I've written my paranormality book, more has come out of my family, things that they didn't say to me at the time
Yeah,
that they didn't understand. But we're the kind of family where you just don't talk about these things. I think I'm the only person in my family who actually openly talks about the weird stuff that we saw. Um, but yeah, an interesting thing that adds another layer to this whole experience. Yeah, as I mentioned in my earlier episodes, I had an accident and blah blah blah, and I really hate talking about the accident, but I only do it just to spread a positive message, though, because each time I talk about it, I have to live through that experience, and it's not fun really. But anyway, what's interesting about that, I mean, that experience accelerated me into the whole paranormal world. It gave me abilities and all sorts, and unfortunately, I met that dark entity and so on. What's really interesting is before that accident happened, some interesting things happened that I can't explain to this day. So basically, my mum had a really good best friend, and our family was really good friend with their family for years. even her son was my best friend for a good few years at primary school, and they were a Muslim family, and so sweet, and spent a lot of time together. So I wonder if that connection made this thing happen. But I swear the mum of the family was a medium. There's something about her. She just knew things, and she did it so casually. But what happened was, at the time, I think roughly about a week or just a few days before I was in that accident, she called my mum and said, I had this dream, and I know it's to do with you. I dreamt that I saw this man wearing a small cap. He was quite dark though, but wearing like an old-fashioned suit. He stood at the side of a road watching the cars go by, and she said, I don't know why I'm seeing this, but I just want to tell you that." She felt compelled to tell my mum because it's not the kind of thing she would normally tell my mum, but she felt compelled to tell her that she's had a dream about this thing happening, and my mum didn't think too much of it, and yeah, then the accident happened a few days later. But interestingly, just before that, also, I just started primary school at the time, so my mum was really excited with my new uniform, and she took those classic first day of school photos. And I need to pull up the photos. I can't do it on this live anyway, but maybe I'll include a link somewhere. But there are these photos of me before the accident happened, like literally about 2 days before, and they have lightning going through it. And I thought it might be a double exposure because think about it, it's the 90s though, so we don't have digital cameras. They were still being developed the normal way, like, the old-fashioned way as we call it now. But there are this lightning going through various parts of my body in this picture. A lot of it around the legs, which was the worst damaged part of me. And I can't explain that either because I look back on those photos and they really creep me out. And years later, now I went to design school and I studied photography there as well. So part of photography is learning digital photography and traditional. So I learned how to develop photos, and through that experience and that learning, I knew when to spot mistakes and how to process things correctly. So we had like the three trays to develop images in the red room, the dark rooms, and looking back at that now, I realize like it's not something about it just isn't natural. It isn't the kind of thing you would see in the photographic process, at least back then. I know nowadays we have AI and we have Photoshop and various things. I'm a graphic designer by day, so I know very well how to manipulate images to a very professional standard and make them really believable. But there's something about it that really spooks me, and it seems to be there are these warning signs just before that happened that catapulted me to this kind of situation. But the amazing thing is, my mum's friend who saw this dark figure, she described him from top to bottom. It was my granddad. She had never met my granddad, at least not that I'm aware of anyway. But she'd never met my granddad, so she didn't know much about him. But she described the kind of clothes that he used to wear, and even outside of work, he still dressed very proudly. He wore his cap, his little kind of not not a bowler cap. What do you call them? Like a flat cap kind of thing. I think they call them nowadays. But he used to wear like a shirt and just be quite smartly dressed. But described him perfectly. How did she know that? For one, how did she know
Well,
how
you
he looked?
said
How
about
did
it
she know where it would happen? And how did she know it was her? And it just
because
blows my mind.
right, okay, time is not linear. It is here because we're always traveling on
Yes.
a line, right? So some people have the ability to tap in to get that information unconsciously, subconsciously, or they might try to do it. Everything that ever has and ever will be exists already. Yeah. So already on the timeline, you're going to have that accident. I don't believe it was a warning. I believe what you saw on that photograph was energy coming to protect you because your accident couldn't be avoided. You had, in the great scheme of things, you had to have that accident in order to wake you up to something. Are you? Do you get that?
I get that. Yeah, I realize how messed up this all sounds to anyone
No,
listening
it
as
doesn't
well, though.
sound
But
messed
I've
up
lived
at all.
through it. I've kind of had to come to peace to it with it. Sorry.
No,
Yeah, sorry,
it
Christine.
doesn't sound messed up at all because years ago I had this experience where I found myself out my body, and it was like I was stood on. Remember the old when we used to play big LPs? Yeah,
Mm.
on a turntable. Yeah,
I'm old enough to know that. Yes,
yeah,
I hate to
okay.
say.
So I was like dead little, and I could see all of my timelines because it was like I was sat in the middle of the
Yeah.
LP, so I could access
Mm.
every point
So
and
like
could
the rings going out, basically,
yes,
like you can see the ripples and
exactly like
right.
that. So,
Ah, okay.
at that stage in your timeline, you had to have that accident in order to take you to where you are now, sitting there now talking about this. Um, so the spirit world would have known that was gonna happen because they know things slightly ahead of time, and I think it was them coming round you to protect you. You weren't supposed to die, but you were supposed to have something monumental happen to you so that you would wake up from your slumber, yeah, um, of materialism. Because if you hadn't had that, you may have been a completely different person. We might not be sitting
Maybe.
here having this conversation, but perhaps you chose this life. Perhaps you chose to come back and experience those things. So everything, I believe,
Maybe. Yeah.
everything is known and it's going to happen, whatever it is. And you were destined, sadly. So the lady that dreamt about that, she saw it because it was in your destiny for it to happen. Um, and we hear about this. We hear about people that are able to have, well, they have premonitions of things. 9/11. How many people had bad feelings about
I've
it?
heard, yeah, the 9/11
How many
effect. A lot of people
people
had,
had
yeah, yeah.
feelings about the Titanic? You know, there was one lady, apparently, she went on with 3 or 4 of her kids, and she was absolutely terrified. She knew it was gonna go down. I've also read another story, and it was one of the trains that were going to Auschwitz. There was a psychic on there, and she was telling them, "I see fire. We're all going to be burnt. We're all going to be burnt." And they grew annoyed with her and told her to basically shut up. She knew what was coming. Um, yeah, and I think there's certain people can tap into that greater consciousness and know what's going to happen. But what you
Yeah.
saw on the photograph, I find interesting because I've seen similar things to that, and that's where I come back to my original point was I'm more likely to believe a photograph like that because we didn't have the ability to. We could mess around with pictures, but not in the way we can now. You know, we can
Mm.
wipe off years. We can make ourselves look completely different. We can put things in, take things out. Half the time, you don't know what you're looking at, whether it's real or not. So I'm more likely to believe something that happened back in the 60s, 50s, 40s, because they didn't have the technology to be able to defraud us.
Yes. No, that's actually a good point. So yeah, weirdly, despite being in the, the data age, things are more believable in the past because of that,
I think
the lack of
so.
ability to manipulate, but also obviously the
I,
lack of technology to manipulate. You can still manipulate certain things. You can think about the creation of, I think, the Turin shroud. They've figured
yeah,
out how that was made.
but it's like you
Yeah.
see some of those old pictures from the spiritualists back in the day. You know, we, I mean, they're dreadful. You know, they're fraud. It looks
Mm.
like a piece of
Yeah, the little photo overlay. I've seen those. It's like a photo over like a blurry shape, and it's like
you know.
it's made to look like it's flying through.
We know that's fraud, you can see it, it's so obvious. But there are things out there that make you go, "Whoa, can't explain that one." And, I think you've got more chance with them than you have today, and I know there's gonna be the old ghost hunters out tonight running around and doing their good stuff. Hope they have a great time, but I do wonder how difficult it must be now for them to try and bring forth, something where people are not gonna instantly slate it. um,
Yeah.
as being, something fraudulent. It's like with EVPs. I've heard some good EVPs, but there's always that thing, oh, well, it could be this, it could be that. But yeah, I've heard some good EVPs, and we have to ask ourselves where they're coming from.
Yeah. It's interesting that technology is able to record these. Sometimes they can quite, you get enough detail to recognize what they're saying. And I don't know how it works, but I've seen it literally happen. Like I've seen EVPs recorded that are essentially fake. I've seen them that are more accidental, I suppose, misinterpreted natural sounds, as in known
Yeah.
science. But I've heard voices come out of nowhere. I mean, a while ago, I think I was recording a video, and I shared like a little clip on the Paranormal Perspectives Facebook group, just like a little clip preview of this extra voice that appeared out
I
of nowhere,
heard
and I have no
that
explanation
in the
for that.
car. When
Yeah, yeah, it was so weird. I was in the car on my own.
I heard that, and I'm like,
I'm so confused. 'Cause I uploaded just it's
"Yeah."
only edited in terms of I've adjusted the volume to make it a little bit louder to make it a bit more audible, but it was loud enough in its original, iteration. And I did have a response to that was somebody saying, "Oh, actually, I put this through in my test of X, Y, and Z, and it's failed on all of these factors." And because this person came up with that, I mean, fair enough, they don't have to believe it if they don't want to. That's okay. The fact they said, "Oh, I put it through the test," and they put this long message. I felt like the message wasn't really about the recording; it was about making a point. It's almost like I'd hit an area that I wasn't allowed to. That's why I thought, okay, well, if you were professionally kind of observing this, like what you should do is get the original raw recording, then
Absolutely.
make your assessments. What I did was present a process. Essentially, it's compressed into the data stream
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Facebook. What they should have done was like, the more welcome to message me, and I'll send it to them for them to observe. Because of the way they respond, I thought straight away it's just not worth it. Like, for some people will not have it for some reason. Like, only they can do it. If someone else does it, oh no, no,
That's
they
ego.
begins to forget this competitive thing as well. I think like,
Well, look,
I
it's
don't
down,
care about it. I care about the scientific process. Like, let's observe and discuss.
but
I'm
that
not
sounds
competing with
ego,
anybody.
isn't it?
Yeah, sorry.
It's down to ego. You put a piece of something up that's interesting. I heard it. But then you'll get somebody come along and slap it down, and because perhaps they feel somehow superior. And I'm in agreement with you that they're not in it for the scientific thing. They're in it to rain on everybody's parade,
Yeah,
basically. The thing is, some people will never believe. Some people will always find something. If I've got a friend, if we've ever got anything, she she does a lot of recording stuff, and I will send it off to her and say, "What do you think of this?" Um, and she's come back a couple of times. I can't explain that, but not every time. She'll say to me, "Oh, that sounds like X, Y, Z." Well, that's great. We'll get rid of that then. But what about the ones that we can't explain? So, I mean, a true scientist, or if you're really interested in scientific inquiries, you should be able to look at both sides of it. Oh God, yeah. Because debunking it's as good as, accepting it, isn't it?
because it's a conclusion either way.
Yeah, yeah. So, but you're always, and this is the thing, if you produce something now and put it onto the internet, there is, and
Yeah,
some people can be pretty vile, and that puts people off as well.
yeah,
Nobody wants to get caught up in some sort of discussion where everybody's got their ego out and they're all. So for me, ghost hunting should be more of a real scientific investigation. In my world, I'd love to take a bunch of people away for 3 or 4 days to a haunted house and do proper investigation. And that's the
mm,
other thing, when we're ghost hunting, you're only there for a couple of 3 hours, maybe the whole night.
yeah,
You're usually strangers. Spirit tends to work well if you know each other and you've got a good vibe going. If
yeah.
you
You're
meet
at
up with a
ease.
lot of strangers, you've got different energies, and all that stuff. And that's why I think sometimes they don't get as much as they could and
Yeah, and it gets
explore.
too busy sometimes as well. You get too many people there, like it dilutes the data stream because, like, for example, I say kind of full disclosure, like on an investigation a while ago, when I get nervous, I get very windy. And that's the worst thing you can be when you're in a place where you need to be quiet and observe and all that. So yeah, I was with a group and obviously needed to let off the natural gas, so to speak. So I thought I'd walk away, be polite, and all that. I didn't know it was near one of the recording machines because I was kind of stepped into the dark thinking nobody could see or hear me. And yeah, so long story short, a while after they were all discussing my fart on EVP. Like I didn't know when to say to them, "I'm really sorry that this isn't an
That's
actual
the
EVP."
part.
Eventually, I had to say, "I'm really sorry." So yeah, sometimes there is an actual explanation for it, but it's so but you feel bad because when you know that and they're all going, okay, well, is it this, is that? Because it sounds interesting that they split, they split the sound waves into individual points. And but anyway, yeah, it's when to say, and you don't want to break their belief because they almost have a twinkle in their eye. I had a twinkle somewhere else at that point anyway. But either way, like it's just I felt really bad, and but
Well,
yeah. Either way, I had to be honest, because I hate the idea of lying about these things and falsifying.
yeah,
Because I don't have, to be honest with you, like a lot of the things that I've said, from my book, and I've done interviews recently where I've appeared on other podcasts, even like radio the other day, talking about a very personal, frightening experience. It it's not fun because you have to relive some quite scary moments, and for me to fake these kind of things, it would take a lot. I mean, you'd have to really explain yourself and like be kind of question why put yourself through that. And I only put myself through kind of reliving those experiences because I'm trying to actually set an example.
yeah.
And I feel like letting this out in the world normalizes the conversation. Like, even if people who are skeptical can at least see a side of life, of going, okay, well, that's not something I believe, but I know that these other people believe it. And these guys aren't horrible people. They're not trying to manipulate you or lie to you or con you out of anything. They're just people that have lived experiences that you may not understand, and also getting people to accept the fact that we don't understand everything as well, making peace with that. So, like I say,
Oh, we
it's
can't.
not fun doing what I do, but in a way, it's helped me as well. So
Yeah,
hoping it helps other people
I think if
feel at peace with that.
if you're going to do stuff and you're going to resort to fraud, not saying that you did, but if you resort to say telling a lie, you eventually came clean as it was about the part.
Well,
You would
but
have felt
be the opposite of coming clean, I suppose. But
you would have felt bad for so long. Um, but it's interesting you spoke about Derek Acora
yes,
earlier
or
on.
Derek.
Um, I mean, a lot of people now, they slate off Most Haunted. But I remember when it first started, it was amazing. But what it showed, it was so popular, it showed how many people are actually interested in the subject.
Yeah,
And I mean, it was riding the crest of the wave, wasn't it, at one time? And obviously, bigger audiences bring more money. And I think the whole thing, he Derek Acora got pushed into producing stuff, and once he'd done it the once, where'd you stop?
yeah, because if that's where kind of money presents a problem. Because if money's a factor, like everybody has to make a living in some way or form to survive, and that becomes your job, then you're kind of in a moral quandary there. Because for one, you have a platform to present to others that maybe don't know much about mediums, um, to educate them, normalize it, and so on. Though, but at the same time, like you have to fulfill the expectations of the company that promotes your program that funds it, the various different things that
Well,
it's a
what
hard measure. I mean, if they could do it for free, that's great though, but then they have to live. It's a weird balance. I don't know, but I just feel so sorry for Derek. All these years, like people talk about him like he's such an evil man. You say, "Oh, but how dare he lie," and all
no, it's
that.
not an evil man at all. I
They they
mean,
they, they,
really,
they thought they tricked him, but they didn't.
what
They
Most
really
Haunted
didn't.
did was they
Yeah,
created a monster. they created their own monster, you
So
know?
he is a scapegoat ultimately because people were beginning to wise up to their antics that they were.
Yeah,
Most Wanted itself, ironically, we know now that Most Wanted generally were faking a lot of the things, but they pinned it on Derek because
yeah,
Derek was exaggerating for performance at certain
yeah,
points, and I get that.
yeah,
You shouldn't do that, but he was, yeah. Anyway, obviously we can't judge him that much, too harshly,
no,
really. But I think they wised up to it there, and they thought, okay, distraction, let's go for Derek.
yeah.
And they've been saying horrible things about him, even like years after his death,
Yeah,
and it guts me that you could know someone so well that has done so much for your show, even after they die, say awful things about them, like trying to pin all the blame on them and never take any responsibility for the fact that you have exaggerated evidence, and ultimately, created a number of people that actually just further despise the paranormal because they see it as a fraudulent activity.
and this
Even like Darren Brown a while ago said this whole thing about I believe mediums are fake because of X, Y, and Z. Basically, I fully declare that I believe all mediums are fake. Anybody that claims to be a medium is fraudulent. And it's such an ignorant thing to say. Like, I have a lot of respect for Darren Brown. Anyway, he's incredibly talented man, very highly skilled. But to be so obnoxious to say that statement without having lived those experiences, it's hard for him to see what certain people see, and maybe he'll never see
you
that,
see
and
when
that's
you get
fine. But to say it is
when
wrong.
you get people like him saying that kind of thing, and I've heard him.
Just say I don't believe. That's it.
Yeah,
Don't make claims of everybody's fraudulent if they're that.
and people listen to that, and like we said with Derek, bless him. Um, People see that, and it gives them a reason to go. Yeah, I knew mediums did that, and it's a great shame. It's just a shame that
So
the
have you grown a
world
tail?
we live in.
I don't know if you can see your camera that you've grown a tail.
Oh, right, yeah. It is not
Brilliant.
my tale.
Sorry.
Um, I think it's a great shame because the world we live in demands more and more. And of
Yeah.
course, as we went along with Most Haunted, you know, it was us, the consumer, that was demanding those kind of things.
Yeah.
By
Yeah.
watching it, we demand. I mean, I'm gonna tell you, watching a live once, because used to have a live over 2 or 3 days, didn't they, sometimes,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
at its height. But there was one, and they were in a place, and, I was watching the live, and somebody phoned in. They'd gone into there was a lift going up to another floor or something, and I could see these lights going around this lift. And somebody else had said there was lights, but there weren't any, but I could see them as well. Um, so something was going on some of those programs. There
Mm.
was real phenomena happening. Um, Not all of it, but there was stuff. But as I say, what it highlighted was how many people are really interested in the subject matter. And you only need one thing to make a mockery. I watched a
Yeah.
program on BBC 4 a few months ago, and it was about a particular period in history, and they brought up spiritualism, the rise of spiritualism, mediums, all the rest of it. And it was almost done in a mocking way. And this was a serious documentary.
Mhm.
Um, And quite recently on Flog It, if anybody watches Flog It, there came up for auction these spirit photographs. They were from like Victorian times. They were obviously fake, but they would have been of interest to a spiritualist, yeah, or a historian. And they give them a value of like 40 to 60 quid. They went for £900 in the end. The bidding was the bidding was phenomenal. Somebody wanted those photographs. There is an interest in there. That's why we've got ghost hunters. They go out, we're trying to prove something. We're trying to prove the afterlife, or we're trying to prove something exists. Um, Good luck to
Mm.
them on these cold, wet nights out there doing their stuff, big brave
Yeah. It's
lads.
quite rainy here in the UK.
Um,
Yeah. It's not a great night to be hunting, is it?
well, the last one I did, as I say, wasn't successful um, by any means, but we were in a place, and it was kind of a derelict house, or part of the house was derelict. There was no
Right.
roof on it, and it was peeing down. So you can imagine how comfortable that was not.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, for me to make any contact with spirit, I've got to be very comfortable and chilled out. And when you stood there and, the rain is coming in around you and it's cold and it's not conducive for me to make any contact with anything. So,
Yeah, no, I get that. You need to just,
yeah.
be open to receive and but still, when I went to Oxford Castle, that's the first time I actually met you in person, actually,
Yeah,
when we went to Oxford Castle that night, and I really wish you were there during the table tipping thing. I can't figure that out either. So we had a few kind of gusts in the crypt downstairs that we couldn't explain. They're quite intense gusts as well. We heard kind of footsteps, and admittedly, one of the footsteps was a recording that plays. I don't know if it's during the day, but obviously this Oxford Castle itself, obviously it's a public place. They play certain sounds where they kind of relive times of past. But yeah, I think one of the sounds is playing the sound of footsteps to simulate, you're in prison. You can hear the guards walking up and down. Admittedly, at some point in the night, that turned on. We could hear footsteps, so we know that was fake. But why did that turn on? We couldn't figure that out though. But
Is that
eventually, we
down
did hear. Sorry.
did you hear that in the crypt down below?
We were in the crypt down below, but we could hear above footsteps, and then we explained it because it was that though. But weirdly enough, about an hour later, we heard actual footsteps, but that sound wasn't playing. That could be stone tape theory, as you mentioned earlier. It could just be that replaying. But yeah, what I can't explain was I didn't believe in tables. Even at that point, I was more into my spiritual life anyway, so I was more open to it. Hence why I'm obviously at Oxford Castle. I'd known you guys from our circle that we were doing at the time. I was just very comfortable. Also, I knew you. I knew the person hosting it. I knew it would be a good place to be. So I was already feeling quite, relaxed, maybe more excited as well. So I don't know if that fed into it too. But yeah, like I say, that we did this table tipping thing. And I didn't really have a good opinion of it then, so I know that can be so easily faked. And yeah, I actually offered to carry the table down into the crypt, partly to help them, but also so I can actually study it to make sure there's nothing on it that could cause it to
Yeah.
move in a way that made it seem real and so on. Yeah, it was just a basic wooden table, nothing special about it. I placed it down, and three other people joined me, and yeah, we did the whole thing of. Well, I said rather than putting your hands under the table, put your hands upside down, but on top of the table like this.
Yeah.
'Cause it's hard. 'Cause, yeah, 'cause your hand's a bit weak when you push down like this. It's stronger if you do it like this. So at least that reduces the chance of it being faked. And also, we're there for corners and legs away from the table, so avoiding any kicking and such. And I was a bit shy then. Anyway, I didn't really know what to say really though. But one person started talking, saying, "Who is there? Can you tell us your name?" And they just tried to simulate some sort of conversation. And eventually, the table started rocking backwards and forwards. And but yeah, the crypt anyway. There's like cobbles down there. There's like the archways. It's quite an intense space to be in
I
when it's dark as
yeah,
well.
uh, I when I was there that night with you, that was the place where I felt activity.
Yeah,
Um,
it was really
I was
intense.
stood, I was stood sort of like looking or the sort of corridor leading down to it, and I very much had the feeling of something there. Um,
Yeah, I wonder if you could feel it. But the table moved basically. It kept rocking backwards and forwards, but eventually it. I don't understand. Like, yeah, I can't figure it out to this day. Do you remember that? I think we were in separate rooms at the time, so we're taking turns with
yeah,
like groups. And there's like a light just next to it. Though it was mostly a dark room. There's one small light just next to where the table was, so you could see a shadow coming out from the
yeah,
table. It was rocking backwards and forwards like more and more vigorously, and we were taking turns lifting our hands up to try and figure out what was going on. And yeah, it was rocking. It was still rocking despite people at either end of the table lifting their hands off. So that was a bit weird. I thought, okay, just don't panic, don't react too much. I started doing it more vigorously, and eventually it started to twist and turn, and it lifted off the floor for just a moment, and then clump. And I can't figure to the day because if we were all doing this,
It's
I
only
could see it's just enough light so I could still see everybody's hands though, but not obviously that bright room, but enough
you
so I could see what
imagine,
was going on to
Kieran.
keep watch.
You imagine, Kieran. So say you're a spirit, right?
Yeah.
You do not have a physical body. Yeah. You've
So
got
you became a table.
no. You've got four. You've got four people there, right? And you want to move this. You've got to do this by will. You've got to make this happen, and you've got no physical means to do it.
Yes.
How hard is it for them to produce enough energy in order to even make that go like that?
Yeah, you do it through people.
You use the people that are there. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I
Um,
get you. Yeah,
uh, yeah, and you've got to think about the people that are there with you. Um, I've been to places. I mean, I went to one years ago, and there must have been about 30 people. But it wasn't well organized. It wasn't, as I say, this was way back, probably one of the first I ever went to.
yeah,
Um, and they had things like a Ouija board and all the rest of it. But we were invited to put our hands on the Ouija board. When you've got 30 pairs of hands and we're all sort of like this, it wasn't very well organized, shall I say. Um,
yeah,
that was years before I did anyone with you at all. And I just remember thinking, there's so much energy going on in this room. Something might happen, but is it from a supernatural perspective? Probably not. It's all of us, all of our energy that could potentially move that, even if it's, unconsciously. The one I went to last year, I was in a darkened room with a friend of mine. We'd all split off, and the person had a spirit box, which was on a table in front of us, and it looked like an old-fashioned radio,
yeah,
um, and from where I sat, I was sat in a different position um, to what she was, and I saw him open the back, and he had an iPad in there, and then all of a sudden, these voices are coming out, and I'm
yeah,
thinking, well, hold on a minute, you've got an iPad in there. I can't accept that as evidence when you've got an iPad in there that you may have put some sounds into. Can you see where I'm going with that?
yeah. I get you. Yeah, yeah,
There was too much that too much opportunity for fraudulence, I suppose. Um, I would like to see more people rather than, running around houses squealing and that, sitting down in a room and having a proper séance like they used to do.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
I've never done a real séance actually.
Well, it was
That would be interesting.
was it last Halloween or the Halloween before? We went to the local museum, supposed to be a Victorian séance.
Right.
Oh god, it was dreadful. I actually wrote to the museum and complained. I said that was not
Go. Now
uh,
tell us your complaints.
well, yeah,
It's your trust pilot review.
and I said, "Did you know what this man was doing?" And, she said, "Well, no, we put it out to tender, and there is a company that sends these people along." But it it was just dire, it was really bad. And again, anybody coming away from that that'd never been to it would say, "Well, that was a waste of money. That was a
So
load."
what happened?
Well, we went into this room and we had, like, it was advertised as a Victorian séance. So I'm expecting a room, with a big table. We're going to sit around and do stuff. That was not it at all. There was a gentleman. I use that term loosely. Stood at the at a trestle table, who had a few bits and bobs. He had like a pendulum and stuff like that. One of those, is it phenology heads? You know the heads that you get, and they've got all bits written on them. Is it
Oh, Yeah, I don't actually know the word for it, to be
No,
honest
I
with you.
don't.
But I'll trust all the words.
He had
But
one in
yeah,
his
the one
head.
you see in like a doctor's surgery with the little
Yeah, he had
yeah,
I think he had a crystal ball and all the rest of it, and I thought, "Okay." So but it wasn't like, "This is a crystal ball, and in order to get" it would just be like, "This is crystal ball. This is a pendulum.
yeah,
Does anybody want a reading?" So I'm just sat on my hands, and, so, of course, a lot of hands went up. "Yeah, I'd love a reading," and he came to one. "What do you want a reading about? Is it a job or is it a relationship?" "Oh, it's a job." "Yeah, I can see in 3 months you're changing your job. You're not very happy with it, are you?" And I'm thinking, "How is this a seance?" So one of my friends went up and he said, "What do you want? Do you want um, is it your job? Is it a relationship?" She went, "Just just let spirit guide you." And he didn't know what to say, because she hadn't given him an opening that he could hook into and just give her a load of tosh, and he got quite he got
yeah.
quite angry with her. But there
Yeah,
was
'cause naturally, if you're going to kinda choose, for example, job, it automatically implies that they're not happy with something to do with that, basically. If it's a relationship thing,
well,
okay, well, clearly,
exactly.
you wouldn't say, "Okay, I just wanna let you know that I love my job," or "I love this relationship," kind of thing, like, it's
Well,
implied.
exactly, and, there was a couple of girls in front, and they're like, "He's a loader," and, it was like but again, if people had gone there for the very first time and they walked away from that, you can see why people go, "That's a load of crap," because
Yeah,
there is probably more out there that is crap than there is that's good, because we don't see the ones. And I've seen some remarkable phenomena, stuff that's been said by mediums, done by mediums, that there's no way in hell there's any explanation for it.
yeah,
But we don't see that. People hook on to, anything that's a bit controversial. And I think that's why mediums get a bad name. And the other thing I don't understand as well, going back to the last ghost hunt I went on, um, we went for a cup of coffee. There was, a break in the proceedings. Went to sit down, and as I sat down, the woman that was running it was sat there, and she said, "I don't like mediums." She says, "I don't trust them." And I thought, okay. And
well,
somebody said,
an instigator, she just said that.
she just said that just as I sat
That's
down.
really random. Did she think that you were? That's why
No,
she
she
felt
didn't
like she
know at
needed to
that
say
point.
that?
She didn't know at that point. So she was
How
talking to a
bizarre.
woman opposite, and she's kind of running her mouth off about mediums and dishonesty and things like that. And I went, "Oh, that's a shame." I says, "Because I'm one, she's one, she's one, and she's one." And she tried to backpedal then, and why was she making that statement? I don't know. Um,
Yeah. I think
yeah,
I think she might be fearing something, so making the statement kind of almost removes responsibility for owning what may be about to happen. I don't know, but what do you expect? If you go to a doctor's surgery and start, dissing doctors, like, why are you here then? This is the place where we're going to conduct a surgery here. This is
yeah,
our place of practice. It's the same when you're in these places. You'll see more mediums there. But by arriving at these places, it should mean that you're open to learning new things, even if you're a skeptic, just there just to observe things. So
I
even like that Oxford Castle thing, I think there was a couple that were there, and they were constantly making comments in the background the whole time.
yeah. See,
Why
it's
why did they go through all the effort of being there?
I don't know.
'Cause
I,
it
I don't
but
know.
if they don't believe it, if they have that negative mindset, it stops things from happening
Yeah, of course it
completely.
does. Yeah, of
But,
course.
like I said, you have every right to not believe in, like, the so-called paranormal world. It's absolutely fine with me. I have no issue with that, and I completely get where you're coming from. But to actually be there from the sidelines, goading people, saying, this isn't going to happen, it completely stops the activity from happening.
Yes,
It's so bizarre. It's like complaining that it's raining and stopping everybody from opening their umbrellas. It's just like I don't know.
very
I know
true.
that's probably a bad analogy, maybe, but
No,
either
it's
way, I just don't get it. But why go out of your way to do that? I mean, I think they only lasted 2 hours and they left. But the moment they left, everything accelerated. Like That's
Yeah.
when we got the table tipping thing happened, and we got the footsteps and a few strange unexplained mists appearing. Like I'm talking about not like a floating foggy kind of thing, but like a wisp, like a mist moving at speed. I saw that. Yeah, I saw that as well. So yeah, some weird things happening that night. But yeah, but it just goes to the thing of like just it's like the whole mission of this channel is just all about normalizing the paranormal. I'm so tired of people just constantly presenting barriers to learn because you may have your defined religion that may tell you this is the way the world is and that's okay if you believe that, but so many people are taught to be so afraid to talk about the unknown. And is it really such a crime to admit that you don't know what on earth is going on and you're
No,
just
of
there as
course
an
not.
observer learning about life? Like
Of course
I haven't got a clue what's going on half the time, but I'm at least admitting it.
and that's why, as sort of like tacky as it was, but coming back to
Yeah,
Most Haunted, it opened up a discourse. People say, "Oh, did you see Most Haunted?" Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it just shows you how many people. It also brought about. I'm sure there were ghost hunters before, but it brought about the ghost hunting phenomena that we see going. It's that happens now. People want to know. So even though it wasn't the best thing on the planet, it opened the door to allow people to explore it, and
yeah.
bring the paranormal in to be normal because it's out there and it's real. Um,
Well, what's blowing my mind as well is like, yeah. Sorry to divert the conversation a bit. Anyways, just made me think like, what's blown my mind recently is trying to understand and relate the idea of the so-called paranormal, or technically paranormal is supernormal, and relating that to a lot of the extraterrestrial kind of situations, let's just say, that we've seen in the news over the last couple of years. Actually, now that seems to be accelerating more and more, which is interesting. Is relating that to the greater scheme of things. Like, as people I've spoke to on the channel recently that have kind of blown my mind in terms of like, some people believe they've spoken to entities from far out there that have communicated through individuals to share certain learnings. And I used to see the idea of spooky ghosts and aliens being two completely separate things, but it all sits in the so-called paranormal. So what's outside of known current science, and you kind of wonder, like, people talk about reincarnation, like, it expands the conversation. Well, we talk about reincarnating on Earth. If there are supposedly entities everywhere, why would you reincarnate in just a singular system? Could you reincarnate everywhere else? And yeah, so like I say talking to people recently about their views of the universe. For example, that one person believed that planets are living entities, that entire systems can be living and conscious. That I'm not sure what I think about that yet, but I find that a fascinating concept because I mean, why not? Quite frankly, like if our souls and energies can inhabit this meat this meat suit, so to speak, then what's to say that something couldn't inhabit something larger?
have you ever felt the earth breathe?
I
Years
felt a
ago,
connection to it at times. Yes.
this is physically. It was years ago, and I was somewhere up in Derbyshire, and believe it or not, I was on my own, and I took all my clothes off. It wasn't a spider
so,
crawl.
so
It
I
was,
didn't expect you to say that then. Sorry.
I know.
I've got.
It
Well,
wasn't.
carry on.
I was much younger.
Just stop there. Just stop there.
It
No, it's all right.
wasn't
It's fine.
at the side of the motorway or anything like that. Very remote part.
Yeah, yeah,
It was
yeah,
so beautiful, and I just laid on this. I guess some part of where I was, but as
yeah,
I say, it's so remote. There's nothing around at all, and I could, because I was just sort of like there, and I suppose in a semi-meditative state, I could
right.
feel the earth breathe. It was like, "Oh,
Wow.
I can feel that. No, that
W-
can't be real." And it was like the earth was breathing.
What does that
Yeah,
feel like?
it literally, if okay, the best way to explain it is you've got kids. If you've ever had them on your chest and they've fallen asleep, you know, you can feel them breathing up and down. It was a bit like that,
Yeah.
literally. It was like almost like it was breathing. And I sort of come to the conclusion that the planet is an entity in and of itself. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, so you came to that conclusion on your own then, just
yeah, just
literally communicating with it directly.
by doing that, it's like, God, you're just so amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'd love to feel that.
going back to the extraterrestrials, um, I'm absolutely fascinated by them as well, and I do think they're our future selves. I think that it's an interdimensional thing. This is just my theory, obviously, that they're interdimensional, hence the reason that they can appear and just disappear. Um, and I think they're what we are going to be. Um, whereas
I've heard of the theory, yes, like evolved entities, because I mean, I heard theories that the ones that people do see here are kind of, yeah, a consequence of our future self and our evolution, but bodies that are manufactured essentially that people can use to travel to different times and dimensions. So essentially, they can be situated wherever they want to be, but also able to operate these almost as puppets, just as a safety measure. If you think about it in the way like Harry Potter, yeah, Voldemort has multiple different Horcruxes to, ensure that parts of his soul, soul are safe in other objects should he die, and so on. In a way, almost thinking that, okay, well, I am the original source, and I want to travel to X location, which may be unsafe. I'm going to create this body to then inhabit temporarily, to then visit these different locations. So I find that a fascinating theory as well. Obviously, I can't prove that at this point, but it's just hypothetical and it's interesting. Because what's to say, like, we have robots at the moment, like for example, like exploring the Titanic. You think about those submersibles that are controlled remotely. It's a
oh,
similar concept, like because it's dangerous down there. Yeah, I know you have yeah, stories about the Titanic, but it allows us to extend our range. But then
yes, it
again,
does. Yeah.
blowing my mind, like, what's to say that we aren't that extended body? Like, how do we know we are our current real self, and that our original self is somewhere else? Could we be just here as a traveler temporarily?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, my
It's
head.
11:15 at night at the moment, and I'm here to break your mind. But yeah, I've thought that recently actually as like, yeah, how do I know I'm the real me? Basically, like, is the real me a singular located an energy of sorts, or is me just multiple different me's operating in different places? I don't know. I mean, it'd be nice to have another me to maybe help with the housework and things like that. But could
That
these guys out there be a similar concept? They're just extending their range.
I don't know, and it's something I can't even get near answering. And I'm gonna have to go because I need to go to the loo. Uh, but
I know
I
we've gone on a bit longer than expected, though, but that's fine. We had a really great time chatting with you, Christine. I did really miss our conversations.
yeah, I miss that too. But yeah, maybe come back. I have to think about that one, but yeah, maybe I don't know is the answer to that. I think that's the point. None of us know the answers. The one thing I will say is, I do think with one thing that does excite me just before I go is the kind of cameras we've got now, and we can pick up stuff that we never used to pick up. Um, and
Yeah,
yeah, there will always be people go fraud, fraud, no, charlatan. But do you know what? It's when you've taken some on a camera device, whatever, and you have no way of explaining it. They're things to be wondered at, aren't they? And gone, wow, how
yeah,
did
yeah,
that happen? So, and I wonder sometimes if it will be the ghost hunters that prove something that takes another step to another till eventually we'll get to that place. But I don't think we'll do it in my lifetime where everybody, believes it. I think it's a gradual thing.
yeah. Well, the thing is, I think people believed it a long time ago, and at some point somebody went, "Ah, you're not having this power. we're taking this back. So we'll create a new reality for you that you have to adhere to and live to that limits you. And I think we're, in a way, like Socrates. I've always mentioned this quote. Yes, Socrates says, all learning is a form of rediscovery."
Yeah,
Ultimately, so are we kind of going through that rediscovery? We're not really learning something new. We're rediscovering what we previously knew.
I think we're rediscovering.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but I'll let you go. I don't want you to hold on anymore, though. But yeah, I really
Okay,
appreciate you being here tonight.
it's been great talking to you. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween or Samhain.
Samhain, yes, definitely.
I said it completely wrong in the last episode when I spoke to Paul the other day. So I remember that because I always called it Samhain. It's a friend of mine who was, into that kind of thing as well. I learned that from him anyway. So I don't know if other people do call it that.
Oh, yeah, people
But I
like
know Samhain now. Yeah,
yeah, I went along to Witch Fest, which is a marvellous, do
Witch Fest.
Witch Fest,
That's a brilliant name, Witch Fest.
yeah, and it's just
Amazing.
full of witches and, you get into conversation with people much more knowledgeable than me at that time, and
Yeah.
I mentioned Sam Hain, and it was just like
They all turned around and like
and
deadpan,
it's like,
like
"Oh god, what did I say?" Um, and they said it's Samhain. I went, "And why is
Samhain.
it spelled Sam Hain then?" But yeah, it's Samhain. But then again, I also heard people instead of when you talk about the, Celtic stuff, they call it
Yeah.
Celtic because it's spelt Celtic. So,
Right.
hey, that's how we learn, isn't it? By our
Yeah.
mistakes, so don't
Well,
worry.
I'd love to have an actual witch, an operating witch on the channel at some point in the future because I used to know a witch years ago and I do like them a lot. But again, it's just getting a different perspective. I'd love to speak to somebody who's much more of a skeptic, as well. I want to know people's views more because beliefs and non-beliefs are still as valid,
Yeah,
and also see separate to experiences as
I
well.
think
But
we should, we should welcome skeptics in as long as they're respectful. In like you said,
yeah,
you had skeptics at Oxford Castle, and they're going, "Oh, it can't be this." That's just being
it's
closed-minded
just
and
wasted energy.
being
Yeah,
just
yeah,
yeah, and it's upsetting. But if you've got somebody that's, prepared to sit there and listen and discuss and, you know, you don't have to come to the same conclusion, but it's good to discuss.
yeah,
And yeah, skeptics should be welcomed into the world of ghost hunting, as long as they don't come with a fixed attitude that everything is fraudulent.
yeah,
Not everything is. There
yeah,
is stuff that's broken, but there's an awful lot out there that you cannot explain, and that's the interesting stuff.
yeah. No, absolutely. Well, that's why I like Dr. Kieran O'Keefe as well, on
Yeah,
Uncanny. But yeah, anyway, you go, you take care, and enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll round up
enjoy,
here in a bit.
and it's been great talking to you.
Oh no, same here. And yeah, it'd be good if you come on with me one day in the future, or whether it's this podcast or we both appear on another podcast. I think you have a lot of stories to share. I think the world deserves to hear, really.
Well,
But yeah,
we all have stories, and where would we be without our stories? Makes
absolutely,
the world
yeah,
an interesting place, doesn't it?
yeah. No, you're a wonderful person, Christine. I'm really lucky to know you.
And are you. You take care. See
Okay,
you
have a
soon.
nice night.
See you
Ciao,
soon.
ciao.
Bye. You turned it off.
No, it's still live at the moment. I'll round off in a second there, but feel free just to quit anyway. Then I'll
Okay, darling, you take
just
care.
do my phone. Ciao, ciao. Bye bye.
Bye.
So yeah, that's our live session. So yeah, I hope you guys liked it or learned a few things from it. But really, I've been lucky over the last year to talk to the most incredible people from all different parallels of paranormal life, really. And I think, yeah, Christine was one of the few at the very start of this podcast that helped start the conversation. Quite frankly, also helped me to relax when I was doing the initial recordings because I was quite nervous, admittedly. But yeah, she's been a good soul and just a great representation of an actual real medium. Not somebody who does it for show, but somebody who just does it because it's just who they are. And being a medium isn't something that you adopt like a cape that you put on. It's something that you are and that you refine in terms of getting better control out of it and maybe learning to wield it in a way that benefits other people, and all that kind of stuff, really. But yeah, so yeah, I've been really lucky recently. I've been I was on UK Health Radio a few days ago, and that was a nerve-wracking experience. I'd never done live radio before, so I tried so hard not to mess up. I shared the start of my book Paranormality on there, and got to talk to an amazing guy. I think Dr. Dean Radin, and he was an interesting person. He's an expert on, I think, psychology, so essentially kind of focusing on what consciousness is ultimately. So hence my near-death experience and how it linked to reality. He found quite fascinating, but I'd love to speak to him in more detail down the line. And yeah, I've been everywhere recently. The Acid for Squares podcast. I reached out to them a little while ago, said that, hey, I've got this really cool story to share. I really like your channel. Like, would you consider having a chat with me? And yeah, they had this Halloween special a few days ago, and they put my video first, which is quite a responsibility to have, though. But yeah, my story was quite shocking, and obviously shocking enough for them to kick off the Halloween special, though. So I'm really glad that's out there. And yeah, I've been on the Fate podcast as well, speaking to Christy. She's such a nice lady. Again, sharing my story. It's like over an hour-long episode, and it's just a good, honest, heart-to-heart about how messed up the paranormal can be, and also how it can change your life, but for the better in time. And yeah, you'll see me in the next few weeks on the Radiate Wellness podcast. I think it might be next month. The episode might be releasing, and also on the Real Life Angel Encounters podcast as well. So my stupid little big face will be everywhere over time. But again, it's just me. I'm not a super professional or anything. I'm just here talking about something that happened that I can't explain, and just leaving it open to people to decide what they think of it. So yeah, but thank you for anybody that's watched tonight. I had a really wonderful evening, and it's just such a nice way to end a nice day. And yeah, I did plan to do this in a sort of Halloween costume, though, but I actually previously was wearing a giant alien costume, but it was so big that I couldn't physically sit in this chair to do this recording. So yeah. Anyway, you guys take care. My name is Kieran Stanislaw Mace, and yeah, like I mentioned, my book Paranormality is available for pre-order if you guys are interested. But I'm a first-time author, so this is my debut novel, and a lot of what's mentioned on this podcast today is in there. And also the few things that Christine has mentioned. She has a book called The Violet Feather, and it's a great collection of people's paranormal accounts interwoven with her own story, which is another great story book to read. Yeah, I love that book. Anyway, you guys take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Be calm, be open to the universe. Respect the paranormal, observe it. Don't be there to be entertained by it. Observe it, respect it, learn from it. And you'll be amazing what will be open to you over time. And yeah, don't have to believe in all these things. Just be an observer at the very least. Try and take in new comparables to grow yourself. Anyway, you guys take